There are two fathers that define every man's life. The first is the father he had, the man of flesh and blood who occupied a chair at the dinner table. The man who was present or absent, kind or cruel, strong or weak. The second is the father he needed, the perfect internal blueprint for order, ambition, and law. The unwavering inner voice that should have taught him how to build a life. And the gap between these two figures, that is the wound. It is a dark, empty space inside you, and from this void, nearly all of your frustrations are born. Your inability to stick to a plan, your quiet rage at authority, your deep, secret fear that you do not have what it takes to build anything that lasts. You think these are separate issues. You think you just have a problem with discipline or a problem with your boss. You are wrong. They are all symptoms of one single foundational wound, the father wound. And until you understand its architecture, you are doomed to be either a rebel fighting a war you can't win, or a son forever searching for a king to follow. This void, this gap between the man you had and the archetype you needed, is not a passive emptiness. It is an active, hungry chaos that dictates your behavior. It manifests in two primary forms you mistake for your personality. First, there is the pattern of self-sabotage you call freedom. You decide to impose order, a diet, a business plan, a workout regimen. For a time, you obey. But then, a deep resentment begins to fester. This is the slave's resentment for the master. You resent the strength your own rules demand of you, so you rebel. You shatter the structure in a glorious act of defiance. You call this freedom, but it is the oldest lie in the book. It is the freedom of the rock that rolls to the bottom of the hill. It is a return to formlessness. It is a retreat from the difficult burden of shaping your own destiny. The second symptom is the desperate search for an external king. This is the spiritual vacuum of the man who cannot bear the terror of his own freedom. He craves a system, a guru, a leader, anyone, to hand him a map so he does not have to face the brutal work of drawing his own. This is the psychology of the Grand Inquisitor. You beg another to take your freedom in exchange for certainty. You become a disciple, a follower, an employee, not for the mission, but for the comfort of having your path dictated. You do not see a man when you look at a leader. You see a potential placeholder for the father archetype you failed to internalize, a god to relieve you of the divine responsibility of creating yourself. These two men, the chaotic rebel and the servile son, appear to be opposites. They are not. They are two heads of the same beast. They are the twin manifestations of the puer aeternus, the eternal boy, the boy who flies high on ideals but is terrified of the gravity of reality, the boy who lives in the world of what if, but never in the world of what is. This is the state you have called your life. To dismantle this prison, you must understand its design. The external father, the man of flesh and blood, had one sacred function: to deliver the blueprint for the internal father. This blueprint is the code for the logos, the principle of order, reason, and willed direction. It is the internal architecture that allows a man to stand upright in the chaos of existence. When the external father fails in his task through absence, tyranny, or simple human weakness, the blueprint he delivers is corrupted. This is the source of the wound. It is not an emotional injury you must nurse. It is a structural defect you must rebuild. Here is the mechanism. Because the internal blueprint for judgment is flawed, you cannot generate a stable sense of your own value. Lacking an internal judge, you become pathologically dependent on the judgment of the external world. The opinion of your boss, the approval of a woman, the number of followers you have, these become the unstable pillars holding up your identity. Your life becomes a frantic performance to win the approval of an audience you secretly despise. And here is the core of the diagnosis. The concept you call law is not a set of rules. A true internal law is the will to power given form. It is the conscious decision to organize your own chaos, to master your own impulses, and to aim that disciplined energy at a target of your own choosing. Without this internal law, a man has no psychological center of gravity. He is a ghost, blown about by the wills of other men and the appetites of his own untamed biology. This is the engine of projection. Because the throne of the inner father is empty, you project the image of a king onto every man who shows a shred of conviction. You project the image of a tyrant onto every system that demands accountability. You are not seeing the world as it is. You are seeing the phantoms created by your own emptiness. The world is a mirror for the void you carry. And your life story is the tale of your fight against these reflections. A corrupted blueprint cannot be patched. A cracked foundation cannot be wished whole. You must begin the work of the architect. You must draw a new map. This is not therapy. This is alchemy. It is the transformation of the lead of the boy into the gold of the man. First, you must forge your own law. This begins with a single, unbreakable promise to yourself. This act has nothing to do with productivity. It is a metaphysical rebellion against meaninglessness. To make a promise, to wake at 5 a.m., to read one page, to take one cold shower, and to keep it for no other reason than that you said you would, is to create meaning where there was none. It is a declaration that your word has the power to structure reality. Each kept promise is an act of self-creation. You are not building a habit. You are taking the meaningless suffering of discipline and transforming it into the sacred suffering of your own willed law. This is the only known antidote to nihilism. Second, you must build a tangible structure. A law that exists only in your head is a fantasy. It must be made real. You must build something that forces a confrontation with the physical world, a business, a body of work, your own body, a craft. The project forces you to integrate your shadow, the lazy, fearful, procrastinating part of you. You cannot reason with the shadow. You must put it to work. In forcing the raw, chaotic material of your psyche to serve a conscious, ordered goal, you are performing the core act of individuation. The thing you build is merely the byproduct. The true product is the builder. Third, you must learn to evaluate power. Your war with authority must end. From now on, you will engage with it as a psychologist and a strategist. When you encounter a man in a position of power, you will no longer ask, "Do I like him?" or "Does he approve of me?" You will ask a new set of questions. From where does his power originate? From his title or from his character? Is he a man who has overcome himself, or is he merely a functionary of a system? Does he wield his authority, or is he hiding behind it? By learning to dissect power, you neutralize its unconscious hold on you. You cease to be a child reacting to a father figure and become a man observing the dynamics of the world, free to navigate them as you see fit. Let us look at the man who has done this work. He is not healed in the modern sense of the word. He has not become soft or comfortable or perpetually happy. He has become something else entirely. He has become dangerous. He is dangerous to his own weakness, dangerous to the comfortable lies of the world, and dangerous to the formless chaos that seeks to pull all things back to nothing. He has completed a great act of spiritual redemption. He has faced the abyss of freedom, the Dostoevskian terror that without an external God, all is permitted, and has answered it with the ultimate act of faith, the creation of his own values. He has become his own lawgiver, his own judge, and his own redeemer. He is the answer to the question that nihilism poses. This is the Overman that Nietzsche spoke of. Not a tyrant who rules over others, but a man who has achieved absolute mastery over the only kingdom that matters, the self. He does not need external validation because the internal structure he has built is its own justification. His sense of value is generated from within, and it is unbreakable. He is the fully individuated man Jung described. The archetypes are no longer projected onto the world as ghosts and phantoms. The king, the warrior, the sage, they have been integrated. They are now committees in a well-run internal government. He is no longer a fragment tossed on the waves of the collective. He is a self, a complete psychic entity. You began this journey haunted by two fathers. You end it by realizing that the father you needed was never a person to be found, but a capacity to be built. The void was not a wound, it was a construction site. The ghost was not your father. It was the shadow of the architect you had not yet become. Your final task is not to find a father, it is to become one. First, to yourself, and then to the world you will build.